Hey guys, Andy here. So I've been a Nexus user right the way back to the Nexus 1. Whatever happened to the trackball? Wasn't that trackball great? Someone should bring that back. Anyway, getting sidetracked. So I've used pretty much all the Nexus devices and then progressed onto the Pixel devices. Although, I mean, they weren't always my main device. In fact, I really enjoyed looking back at the videos I did where I was trying to decide between, I think it was the Note 4 and the Nexus 6, and then the Note 5 and the Nexus 6P. I really enjoyed kind of just reminiscing in some ways, and it was, you know, seeing what tech was like back then, 3 years ago or whatever it was. But yeah, there's often been Google's device and another flagship that's kind of battled for my attention in some ways to be my main device. And we could be in for another battle now, which will be a different video. Subscribe if you haven't already, because there will be the Note 9 and the Huawei Mate 20 Pro up against this while I'm trying to decide which is going to be my main device. I think Google are in a bit of a no-win situation as well in some ways, because Nexus devices and Pixel devices now, they draw the hardcore Android fan. Nexus devices specifically drew the kind of budget-loving hardcore Android fan as well. So now the Pixel devices are more of a top-end device, and definitely priced like a top-end device. They're being held to very high standards, really. And don't get me wrong, they've made some balls ups along the way. So last year the Pixel 2 XL was the blue tint on the screen, which I don't think was particularly an issue at all. There was talk about the bezels are too big, and you know, people are very critical of them because they're hardcore Android fans and they want the best and they want Google to give them the best. This year is all about the notch, which, thanks to loads of leaks way in advance, we've been talking about for a long time before we even had the announcement and before the phone came out. So let's move on to the design of the Pixel 3 XL. I would start off with just saying I love the design. It's kind of so you probably heard me talk about slabo phone before, where I like just the flat, thin slab. In this case, it's slabo glass phone, and I just love the feeling of it. It is quite thin at 7.9mm, but it feels quite wide, but also quite light. So it's 184 grams, which normally you wouldn't think is light, but actually compared to its sort of peers, that is the lighter device. There was a lot of talk about the back, this sort of etched back. So you can see where it's just normal reflective glass at the top, and it's the same piece of glass, but they're just etched down there below. And it still feels like if you told someone to close their eyes and rub their finger on that and say, is that etched or just glass? I'm not sure that they would know that it's the etched bit. I mean, you can tell the difference when you get up to, oh yeah, no, that's the glass, that's the etched. But it's really smooth. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting more of a rough feeling. There was a lot of talk about how it marks very well. Now, I've been using this for 4 or 5 days. I have marked certain things. It took a bit of a fall look on day 1, taking the bleeding photo for the thumbnail of the video. Blew off the wall. Anyway, but yeah, there's talk about how the back scratches, I haven't had that issue. I mean, I think it's probably more prevalent on the black device, but apparently it's actually the glass generally is the harder thing, and therefore whatever you mark with is bits of the other thing coming off. So give it a wash and it should be fine. It does feel a bit weird though, and it is quite slippy. I say that, I mean, I'm not thinking it's going to slide out of my hand or anything, but it just has a bit of a feel. You know, it is a glass phone. So, well, I'm sure there's a lot of you will already know if you're going to be putting a skin or putting a case on it. I realize how dirty the screen is. I should have cleaned before we started. My apologies. Let's give it a quick rub. It comes in 3 different colours. This obviously is clearly white, and that's what it's called, clearly white. There's also just black, and there is not pink. And I kind of, after I'd ordered this one, I did think, oh, I wonder if I should have gone with not pink, because, I mean, maybe it sounds a bit obvious, but it isn't actually pink. That's why it's called not pink. It's just kind of a slight hint of pink to it, just giving that slightly weird colour in some ways, which would probably have been quite nice. The one thing that sort of I realise these days is Pixel the only device where the volume is below the power. I don't know that any other device, almost everything else I use has the power down here and the volume up there. I'm not really quite sure what that's about. As you will have noticed while I was looking at the back there is a rear mounted fingerprint sensor, which is very quick and reliable. No problems at all. It's quite low profile. It's a lot lower profile than last year's. You'd almost you almost could miss it. But it is very reliable. I don't remember any issues with it not unlocking. Probably doesn't even need mentioning these days, but it is USB Type-C. It is worth mentioning though that you do get USB Type-C buds in the box with them, as well as a USB Type-C to 3.5mm jack, because obviously there isn't a 3.5mm jack on the device. It is IP68 dust and water resistance, and I have had need to clean it because of issues I've had with my speakers. And I will tell you, if you do get it wet, don't panic when the speakers sound terrible for the first like hour or so after it's been wet. In fact, I had to wait till the morning before it sounded reasonable again, and well, I've been having to deal with other things, but we won't worry about that at the moment. My own issues, not the phone's. I do generally think though that it's a beautiful design. Really is nice. Probably one of the best looking devices on the market at the moment. The hardware, it's a Snapdragon 845 chipset, which is 10nm, which is not, you know, I can't say it's dated. Some people are saying, oh, it's an old processor or an old chipset. Well, not really. It's the latest one Snapdragon do. Now, granted, that may have come out, well, I don't know, earlier in the year, and it might be sort of 6, 7, 8 months old, but that doesn't mean it is actually old. It's still the most recent. So I think it's a bit unfair to say it's a dated processor. Has the Adreno 630 GPU, only 4GB of RAM. That's a bit of a talking point as well. A lot of people are saying, well, that's ridiculous, I'm out, I'm not buying it, it's 4GB of RAM. I think the more important thing is how the device handles, and it's so slick and smooth. It's just buttery smooth. I understand the whole apps not staying in the background and having to reopen. If that is an issue for you, fair enough. That is a thing. I get that. For me, it's not really. It's not like I play games and I'm jumping back and forth. And you know, I'm generally open my phone, go to the app I want, do whatever I want to do, and close the phone down again. It's not, you know, I'm not. I guess I'm not a power user in that respect. So I get that it's a thing. That is something you should bear in mind. But don't think it's going to make the phone slow, because it really isn't. It's slick and smooth as anything. But a bit of a talking point. So all the specs, it clocked up 7,900-ish on Geekbench 4, which I'm not gonna lie, it isn't great, but again, the device is so smooth, it's just ridiculous. You shouldn't worry about the specs, they're fine. This particular one is 64GB of storage, which is £869. You can get it at 128GB for £969. That is actually quite a lot for the 128GB models. There aren't many flagships 128GB that cost that much. The Note 9 is less than that. The Huawei Mate 20 Pro is less than that. So I can't help but think, well, I wonder why Google goes so pricey. They don't need to. They're not making a lot of money off these. That's not how they make their money. Why? I don't know. I understand pricing it high to try and kind of almost make a point that this is flagship, this is quality, this is premium. All right, but you could do that at 800 surely. So I don't really get why they've done that. So the speakers, the stereo speakers, they do sound really good. For phone speakers, you're going to struggle to find any better on the market at the moment. On my test, they scored 88.9 decibels, which basically matches them to the Nexus 6P. If you ever had one of those, they were some good speakers. These are, I would say, as good. It's quite a rounded sound. Well, I'll play a little clip now. So I think you agree. Well, I don't know how well that comes across, to be honest, but they do sound, it's a strength of the device. If speakers matter to you, they're very good. This is also the first time I've not turned off haptic feedback. The only weird one is, I mean, obviously I can't show it on a video, but as I drag it down I get a bit, but it's that aside, when you're typing, so normally I turn that off straight away, I just find it very annoying, but I don't quite know how. And I did see in other reviews, they talked about how great the haptic feedback was. I don't, haptic feedback's haptic feedback, isn't it? That if you're not sure what I'm talking about, just that little vibration or that little nudge when you do something, like when you tap a key, and it lets you feel that you've tapped it. And I can't tell you why it feels good. It just does. It's really good haptic feedback. The screen itself is the screen has the notch, but let's not worry too much about the notch at the moment. So it's 6.3-inch POLED, which again got a lot of people go, oh, POLED, isn't that what they used last year? But trust me, it's very good. It's very good. The actual specs to it, 6.3-inch, 82.8 screen to body ratio, which is pretty damn high, to be fair. There is a bit of a chin, and some people moan about it, but I wouldn't really be too worried by that. And obviously the notch, as we've mentioned. It's 2960 by 1440, so that's an 18.5 by 9 ratio. and that's a 523 pixels per inch density. So everything's kind of ticking the boxes of a flagship screen at this point. It's got Corning Gorilla Glass 5, it's got the always on display, as you will probably have seen. There is a new graphic. When I had a certain wallpaper set, I'd get a funky little wavy graphic bit when I got a notification, which I thought was quite nice. I also didn't realise that I missed on the always on screen, always on display. I actually quite missed the now playing, and when I've been using this device and I've been in the dining room, the music playing, and I kind of looked down, oh yeah, that's who this is. I'd forgot how much I like it just being there. So that's pretty cool. I do love just how flat the screen is. So the other two devices I'm using, the Note 9 and the Huawei, they've got very curved edges to the screen, and I love how flat this one is. Yeah, there's no mucking about on the edges of the screen. There's not the sort of issues trying to tap things because of the curve. It's just leave your screens flat, people. I don't know why they think we want curved screens. So yeah, love how flat it is. It's kind of like the image almost floats on top of the screen. They've done a really good job with it, and as you can see there, the viewing angles really very good. I think the colours are nice and bright, pop really well. You know, I don't think I can fault this screen. Really very good. It also goes quite bright. So again, in my test, it went up to 696 lumens, which again, in this day and age, there's not many devices seem to go up that high. I am being told that some of them, they've just changed how they do it. You can't manually crank them up to full. You have to let the auto brightness do it. But even then, just testing on a water device, cranking it to full, what does it score? 696, really very good. So the screen, definitely an improvement on last year. Really very, very good. So if we talk about the cameras for a moment, the Pixel device is obviously quite now well known for having amazing cameras, and the 3XL, definitely no disappointment in that respect. Google, quite bravely in some ways, sticking with their solitary lens on the back, which is 12 megapixel. There are two on the front, which are both 8 megapixel, one of them being ultra wide angle, which actually I really like. I do really like. You use some devices and you go to the front face and it's right in your face, even at a bit of a distance, which if you're trying to get more people in as well, just isn't going to happen. But actually, the ultra wide angle lens really does give you scope to fit everybody in, basically. So I do like that. The portrait mode looks good. I'm not going to know too much about those sort of things. The colours in the photos, I think they look really good. They're quite vibrant. They pop really well. I worry if they're almost oversaturated, but I don't think so. I think there's quite a good balance of popping, but not too much. The zoom, so they've got a special sort of software zoom, which is supposed to, as the slight movements of your device, as you're taking the picture, they kind of fill in the pixels. Personally, I don't think it really works. I think the zoom photo looks a bit like an oil painting. And actually, if you just crop down the regular size picture to that bit, it looks very much the same. So I don't really think that's all that great, but it could be improved with software because it's all software based. The low light photos are fantastic, and night sight is just ridiculous. So I did take a couple of pictures yesterday, one in a street where just without night sight and then with night sight. Not a massive difference. There was enough light for the regular lens to cope, but then when I was in a different area where there was a lot lower light, you could really see the difference between regular and night sight. So really quite impressive there. There's another thing called Top Shots, which we don't have just yet, but I did see a guy, I think it was Your Average Consumer, gave a bit of a demo of his friend. He took a picture as his friend was moving, and actually it got the picture to like split seconds before, where it's just him with a nice smile on his face. Looks actually really good and really quite handy. Video, I think, looks great. I think it's nice and smooth. Again, there's nice vibrant colours. You might notice jittering on this footage. That's the encoding, unfortunately. I have uploaded some that's encoded a different way and it looks a bit better, so do go and check that if you want to know if you're more interested in the video quality. 4K would only go at 30 frames per second, which upsets some people, and also there's no super slow-mo or ultra slow-mo. There's no 960 FPS mode like other devices do have. I guess my concern with the camera is that a lot of it's software based. So if you're buying it for that, well, how long before other manufacturers basically can mimic that software? So already Huawei have got their own night mode, which does look fantastic. So how long before they do Top Shot or things like that, or Samsung? I'm kind of surprised Samsung seem to be lagging behind. They haven't got a night mode, but surely they're working on it. Surely that's going to come. So that's my concern. If you're paying for the software can be mimicked. If I was on Dragon's Den, if you ever watch that, that's the thing they always ask about. Someone comes in with this amazing idea, and they say, okay, what's stopping other people from doing that? And if that person goes, well, we did it first. Yeah, see you later, mate. And that's what worries me a little bit, I think, with the Pixel. Huawei definitely are catching up with their camera. Their cameras are amazing. Which moves me on to software itself. Now, obviously, this is the latest version of Android 9.0. Everything is stock. Which to many of us is quite a big plus. I don't think there's too much else for me to say other than, yeah, it's stock. So there's a lot of stuff I've mentioned in the camera, which is software based and is really great. There's a few bits and pieces like flip to shush, so when you flip it that way down, it basically puts it in do not disturb mode. There's some things like that. But yeah, it's just stock Android, and it is slick and smooth and beautiful. There is still, the gestures aren't done that well, I don't personally think. They could, maybe they'll improve on it at some point, make it a bit more, I hate to say it, but a bit more iPhone-like, because, not that I've used iPhones ones, but I've used like Huawei's and people like that are iPhone-like, I think, and they do work really well. So, yeah, the software, I'm going to skip over pretty much, to be honest, because it's stock Android, and hopefully you know what that means. But it is a strong, I don't know why more manufacturers don't just use stock Android. These days, it's so beautiful, it's so slick and smooth. Fantastic. Now, the battery, 3,430 milliamp hours LiPo, non-removable battery. Oh, that's a bit of an eye-opener. Now, last year, that's fairly standard, but this year, devices have cranked up to 4,000. Now, we do get a thinner and lighter phone because of it, and generally, Android is quite efficient with the battery these days. Stock Android, I should say, sorry. So, maybe that's going to be okay. Now, in my testing, so far it's not done great. It hasn't performed as well as the Huawei or the Samsung, but I can understand it might take a week or two because of all of the artificial intelligence, which gets to learn the usage and then optimize the battery, hasn't had a chance to learn. So maybe I'm being a little unfair judging it at this point. At the same time, on my test, which is normally done at a similar time on devices, the Pixel 3 XL only scored 91%. Well, I say only, that's not bad, but it's not up there with the Note 9 and the Mate 20 Pro, I suppose, is what I'm saying. So not as strong, but I think you'll probably find it's not an issue. Unless you're a real heavy user, you're going to get through the day. I'm seeing people are getting 5 hours screen on time without too much trouble, so shouldn't be too much of a concern. It also has fast battery charging, which I won't lie, I've not actually tested because I've got all my setup already done. I don't normally take the bricks out of the boxes, they stay in there, but it charges at 18 watts. That's going to give you quite a fast charge. Standard is, I think, 15 watts for sort of fast charging on most devices. So it's going to be pretty quick. You're going to charge to full in less than 2 hours without much of a concern there. So that's good. Also, it does have, finally, wireless charging has returned, which is something I do miss if I don't have it, if that makes sense. Well, obviously, I'm only going to miss it when I don't have it. I won't miss it when I've got it. But, so the Pixel device, I did actually miss them when I came back to the Note 9 that I had it. I was like, oh, it is quite nice. You can just drop it on a pad and it charges away. So that's good. What they have done, though, is they've kind of made a standard, almost set a standard for fast wireless charging. And if the fast wireless charger doesn't meet that standard, it doesn't allow it to fast wirelessly charge. So most of the fast wireless chargers you've got aren't going to fast wireless charge. How many times did I say fast wireless charge there? Anyway, so they've got their own one out. Is it like £69, £79, which is a lot for a fast wireless charger. I mean, people tell me it's great. I think it's got all some different functions and adds some functionality again through the software, like the sunrise alarm, wake up type things. I think Drew was one of my friends was telling me about, or was mentioning in the chat earlier today. But that's a lot of money though for a wireless charger. Whether or not, so yeah, I charged it. I did charge on a regular pad. It was just behind me there. It took over 5 hours to go from 7% to full. 5.5 hours. Really? But if you charge wired, you'll be fine. If you buy a compatible, so it's not only Google devices, you just have to buy a compatible fast wireless charger for it to work fast. So my conclusion It looks, feels and sounds amazing. As I think I said already, probably the best on the market in that respect. Love the design, love the screen, love the speakers. That's all top notch. I didn't actually get used to it. I watched other reviews where they say, you get used to the notch. I don't think I did. I think it was more apparent in things like Gmail. So where you see the two different tones, and it just, I don't know, each time I go up there to drag the bar down, it struck me sort of how big the notch was. So yeah, strangely, although I think I've been the one for quite a long time that kind of defends notches. I don't mind notches, and it's not a big problem for me, but I just thought I'd point out I didn't get used to it. I keep noticing it every time I go to the top there. And then, so it is a great phone, but a lot of its greatness is through the software. And as I've just said, it worries me that, well, that can be replicated by others. Is that what you want to be clinging on to as what makes you great? You need the hardware to be great as well. Not that it's not, and like I said, I've just said how amazing the design and the screen, and so it is, but the key selling point is the software, I think. Well, the software and the camera. And I think that's what it boils down to. How important is stock Android to you? How important is a fantastic, reliable camera that you can just point and shoot and you know you're going to get a good picture? Because I think that's the key. If they're really important to you, this is the phone for you. If they're not so important, probably look elsewhere. Simple as that, I think, really. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Please leave them in the comments down below. I do read every comment. I'll remove a few of them. Don't be abusive about to other people. If someone might have an opinion that doesn't match yours. It was really a shame. I was reading a comment yesterday, and it was quite a long and well constructed argument about something, and then at the end you just said, "You're an idiot." Why'd you? And I just felt I need to remove it. I don't want to start fights and arguments on YouTube. I know that's what a lot of people use it for, but not on my videos, please, people. So do leave comments. Let me know your thoughts. Let's have some discussion about it, because I think it's a very interesting discussion, I think. But that's it from me. My name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also, come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum if you've got any questions about things, or request me to review things, or anything else. Just come and have a chat on the forum.